Good morning, everybody. We have our welcome to the GBAN annual meeting. I know that we have a slightly bigger room than we normally do. This is, of course, called the boardroom because we have so many related Gen sessions like this. So what I'd like to ask, if anybody, since there are going to be some presentations, we were going to keep these seats a little open so people don't have to try to look with the eyes at the back of their head. But if any of the people sitting in the outer row would like to come and sit closer in, you're welcome to do so. We do have, for our members, assigned seating, but otherwise you're welcome to take a seat if you'd like to join us in here. It's a little easier to speak. Well, welcome to the third Global Business Angels Network meeting. As you all know, this is a nascent angel investor community, and its distinguishing value proposition is that it's part of and connected to the Global Entrepreneurship Network that you have the opportunity to witness and see here at the GEC each year. And this is the reason we hold this live meeting as part of the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. But what I'd like to, if I can do, is to just give a little bit of an update or a reminder about who we are, what are some of the things that we were formed to try to do, some of our successes and challenges and obstacles in doing that, and to prompt a discussion not just about learning from each other about what we're doing in the angel investor community, but also to be able to look at ways we want to learn from each other going forward. So, what is our mission statement? Well, we're essentially here to be able to work together with all of the voices in the entrepreneurial ecosystems that are making up GEN, and to really amplify the angel voice to regulatory issue discussions, to amplify the angel voice in the communities in which we serve. And we always had three specific goals that we were trying to accomplish. The first is that we're looking to connect business angels with the entrepreneurial ecosystems around the world. The second is we wanted to increase public awareness of the role of business angels in advancing the concerns of existing angels, and always at all time welcoming new investors and increasing access to angel investors worldwide. And then finally, we wanted to develop new angel investor groups in entrepreneurial ecosystems where the angel investor infrastructure is less developed. And I think that third one is the one that I've had the most amount of feedback from governments around the world. I'm surprised, even though there may be an angel investor group or two in some countries, the number of governments now, this was raised in our ministerial on Sunday, the number of governments now that have said, we really need to figure out a better way of doing this because, you know, we've had the odd consultant in and we've given funding, we've looked at a few tax incentives, but we really don't have the, you know, we don't have the mojo, we don't have the sort of energy, we don't have the sort of environment in which we could see anything that we develop flourish and flower. So I think that that's going to be something that strategically later in the meeting when we move off our updates, we'll really look a little bit more closely. So what are some of the things that we do to currently connect people into the entrepreneurial ecosystem? Well, obviously, we encourage any of the angel investors that are in any of our members' networks to be able to get involved in the Global Entrepreneurship Network operations in their country. They can do this in many ways. They could either participate in a Global Entrepreneurship Week event, they could judge a competition, they could join as someone like Claire would in the policy discussions that we're doing in those countries. They could participate in research that we're doing through our ever-scaling collection of research institutions. But I think the most important thing for us is to actually be at the table with each of our local Global Entrepreneurship Network affiliates, so that the discussion occurs at the local level. So that there's a discussion about how can I be helpful, how can you be helpful to me, do we have enough conversation among all the actors in the ecosystem, and what's the role of early stage capital in that process. So we do, of course, invite members to join cross-border groups for co-investment opportunities, there's 2 or 3 examples of that last year that I think were quite successful. We have a very simple website. It's part of, we integrate the website deliberately. We could put up a completely separate website in a day if we wanted to, but we deliberately integrate it into the collection of websites that come under the GEN umbrella for the very reason that at the back end all the data is centralized. We do have these field report calls where anybody in the network who wishes to update on what's happening in the network, or wishes to pose a set of challenges, share some research, talk about some updates, can do that by phone upon request to us. We can put together, we call them field reports, but it's essentially reports from the communities to the rest of the world. Anybody interested in participating in those can do that. And then, of course, we very much encourage in this public awareness objective the angel investor organizations to really leverage Global Entrepreneurship Week. As you saw on Monday night, some of our Global Entrepreneurship Week campaigns are quite significant in scale. And so there's plenty of opportunities for the angel investors within the networks to be able to participate in those GW events. So in terms of how do we foster new angel groups, well, we're trying to share best practices in order to accelerate the development of these groups, in particularly the less mature ecosystems and economies. That is a role that, when Candace and Claire and John and I first got together and thought, how do we do this? It was certainly a role that we thought was vitally important, which is that the more mature angel investor organizations would be mentoring those that were aspiring to emerge from other economies. Certainly, I think that's been something that we've done. Certainly, if you look at the role that, for example, Tomi and GBAN has done with some of the African countries, that's been a very effective model. And then finally, I think the obvious example is making sure that in terms of fostering new angel groups, that we're leveraging the sheer scale and diversity of the Global Entrepreneurship Network. We obviously have the GEC, but there's a wide range of other connectivity opportunities, which we outlined on Monday, ranging from events to clearly networks and communities. And I don't think, frankly, GBAN members have really taken advantage of this enough. Candace is always saying we should be a lot more structured about how we bring together our angel investor members. But unless they're here, it's very hard to do that face-to-face. And I often say, unless they've had a face-to-face at least once, it's very hard to do that virtually. So certainly we do think that that's one thing that we've got to improve upon is explaining to a lot of the angel investor groups around the world that this is an opportunity. But we do have a strong list. William tells me there's 3 or 4 members that we will be sunsetting because they've either been very, very inactive or it's not their organization or their interest has evolved away from angel investing. I think you've all seen this. Occasionally people will set up angel investor groups and then they'll shift their focus and do something else. But this does have the list, and of course all of you have a copy of the broader global GEN impact report, and in the back of this is a list of all the members, and naturally, of course, the best list is the directory that William did a great job in putting together on the website, which is updated real time. But I think it's really important to remember who are the community that make up the Global Business Angels Network. So let's you know, just as, again, reminder, we've got Gen Connect, which I want to just reiterate in case you missed it before. This is an opportunity to also do things like participate in the Speakers Bureau. We actually are stopping referring people individually by email now. I'd say probably one of the most common emails I get from people is, "Hi, how you doing? We're doing a conference on this, and we're looking for a speaker on that." And of course, for years I've been like tapping away on email. Well, I'll tell you should do it, and I'll still do a few of those, especially to you guys. But we want to emphasize that we actually have set up the Speakers Bureau for that. But unless people actually say, all you have to do is check the box in your profile to say, I'm willing to receive through the web email. I'm willing to receive invitations if people are interested in me coming and speaking. And I bring this up to the angel investor community because it's particularly, it's a very common request. And it might be a request to speak, it might be a request to judge a business competition. So certainly I want to stress that we are doing that through Gen Connect. And Gen Connect, the way to really think of it, our web team likes to remind me that the website does so many things. But until we make it a lot more user-friendly, we've got an awesome team coming on board actually to simply on design and user experience. But until then, I really want to stress that at a very minimum, you should view it as being perhaps the best directory you've got available in terms of diversity of the global ecosystem. And of course, these resources are available to you. I do want to stress the last one. Even Candace got on the Slack network. So, you know.
I'm not going to say who helped me.
But no, but it is wonderful. In some of the communities within Gen, it's great because they've actually just made the Slack way of actually bypassing email and everything else. And because it's closed just to the members, it's really phenomenal to see the, you know, and you could use any other. I know you could have a WhatsApp group, you could have various other groups. We chose to use Slack, but.
You should make it compulsory for the coaches.
Yo, you want them just for the co-chairs, eh?
At least it should be compulsory for them, mandatory.
Oh, mandatory. Yes, it is actually mandatory, which is why I think William gave Candace a helping hand. But you know, we had to do the same thing. So that's a little bit of update of where we are. So going forth this morning,
Before you do,
yep.
May I just say one thing, because you talked about the fact that you do get these emails, and really it was 3 years ago, almost 4 years ago, that I wrote to you, and we were doing a meeting together with the United States and with Europe for the financing of startup innovation. And I wrote to Jonathan, I said, this is so important, I really need to have somebody come. And the person that he suggested was Alicia Robb. And from that, Alicia was starting Rising Tide in the United States. We started then Rising Tide Europe, which is now the 3rd iteration, and we are starting Rising Tide Africa. So I want you to know that those connections that you put in place, this has really enabled women across the world to come together from, at the point, I think now we're now at 24 countries, 4 continents, to come and to invest together as women in innovation. So it's really exciting. That just, I want you to know that.
Yeah, yes. And I appreciate that. And it's funny because one thing that we try to connect, but at the end of the day, it's all of those things that you actually accomplish as a result of that. I've had many of those in the last 48 hours of people come up to me, you know, with good stories of that. So thanks for that, Candace. So we're going to, today, you've got the agenda in front of you, and you can all read, but I just want to make sure we've looked at the structure. So I'm going to, Claire is going to lead us through some of these discussions, but we're going to begin our plenary discussion by hearing from 4 people who can give us an update on what's happening in their part of the world. And then we're going to take a short break, and we'll go into our breakout groups, and we'll return back into a plenary discussion. But I did, before we get started, want to acknowledge Ali Sabanchi, who's in the room. Ali, please, you know, as early stage investors, you know, you're obviously, from the investing perspective, it's intimidating, but we're very excited to have you here, and I know on behalf of all of us, we want to once again thank you for your hospitality, and we're flattered you're here at the GBAN meeting, so thank you. And we hope that you'll enjoy hearing a little bit about what we've got to report on from some of the other parts of the world. So, yep, we'll do that. Okay. We have had some changes in leadership, and in particular, I want to welcome for the first annual meeting Padmaja, who has joined our board. And we'll be having some more changes on the board that we'll talk about at the end of the annual meeting. But I did want to have a chance to welcome Padmaja. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Jonathan, and I'm delighted to be here with all of you. And I'm sure this is going to be a very re-energizing meeting, and we'll take things to the next level together.
Wonderful. So so first of all, I think we've got three presentations this morning. We obviously are going to capitalize on the fact that we now have Padmaja very much actively involved in this. So we're going to hear from Padmaja. I know, but then we're going to hear from Ben White, give us an update on as far as VC for Africa. And then we're going to hear from Nicholas from IM Capital, and then Baybars is going to give us an update on what's happening in Turkey. So, so Padmaja, can I turn the floor over to you? Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good morning, everybody. What I thought I'd try and do is give you a little bit of a glimpse of what's happening in India. And because India is a very large country, we have our own variations that we need to tweak across the country, as well as the fact that what we've been able to export, quote unquote, a little bit of the angel ecosystem into our neighboring countries. So I'll just sort of structure it a bit to give you a sense of that. So angel investing really was not even known in India about 10, 12 years ago. I remember when I co-founded IEN and I went to people who were literally $500 million worth and said, you know, I'm doing this, why don't you join in as an angel investor? And there was one conversation that I cannot forget. And somebody who's been investing, building companies, first generation, understands the value of entrepreneurship, the wealth that it creates, the job that it creates. And he said, Padmaja, I understand about investment and that it is going to give me returns, but what is the religious part of it, which is the angels? So, so that is where the concept was. That is what we had to start off with in India about just 12 years ago, 10, 12 years ago, in 2006, I remember. But that is history, as they say. Today, we are a very, very active angel group, angel ecosystem. Angel investment has become an asset class in HNI portfolios, in ultra-high net worth individuals' portfolios. People are really looking, the wealthy people specifically, and specifically, I would say, first-generation successful entrepreneurs, all of them are looking at angel investing very, very actively. So if you look at the 6 co-founders of Infosys, if you look at the co-founders of Flipkart, I'm sure all of you have heard these big names, big first-generation entrepreneurs who've made it there. All of them have about, on an average, we figured about 15% of their wealth parked in angel investing. And they are actively, literally actively spending their time mentoring, guiding, helping companies. And now they are getting into a point where they are sort of starting to focus on certain sectors or certain interest areas. For example, Chris Gopalakrishnan, who is one of the 6 co-founders of Infosys, is extremely interested in brain mapping. So he's looking at innovation in brain mapping and health. I'm just trying to give you a sense of how the ecosystem has developed in the country there. The second thing that has happened is startups or entrepreneurship was at the bottom of the career choice, right? My own story says that my dad didn't allow me to go entrepreneurial. He said you couldn't do anything else, so I suppose you have to do something on your own. But today, it is a career choice. It is a top career choice. And we had our Indian Institutes of Management, which were really the world-class management institutes in the country. About 2% of the class used to stay back in India. 98% used to go overseas for jobs. Today, we have 10% of the class going overseas and 90% staying back. And out of the 90%, we have almost about 57% which is trying their hand at entrepreneurship. What it says is the talent pool for entrepreneurship or startups has developed and is very, very high quality. And if there is good, high-quality ventures breeding, they only breed if there's investment. And investment only happens, angel investment only happens when there's very high-quality teams and propositions to invest in. So it's very synergistic, and this is increasing. The third thing is, I think the country is seeing, it has really, I think angel investing has become a virus there, honestly. It's become a virus which is good and bad. The good part is there's a lot of money which was going into real estate, going into what I would call dormant assets, if I may say so, is moving into this kind of economically constructive assets, which is angel investing and providing SME debt and all of that. However, and this has also happened, I must also add, that real estate is not growing very dramatically as it used to. Or these other asset class, fixed deposits have just gone down the dump. So these are emerging alternate asset classes. But what is also very important is the fact that we are now on the verge of being very, very selective as to who's coming into angel investing, especially from the angel network perspectives, because we are seeing angels who are using this as a badge of honor, okay? And that has its own repercussions because the quality of money into a startup becomes extremely important. It becomes important that is it intelligent money to say that is it proactively helping the startup, is it money which is helping, guiding the startup, engaging with the startup to help in a very non-interfering way. And the other thing is it's what we call illiterate angels, in some ways saying, I'm invested when every week give the entrepreneur a call, say, what's happened to my investment? Where has the company gone? So we are literally seeing that ecosystem nudging and forging in different ways, which is very different to what I would say one would see in other parts of the developed world, especially angel ecosystem development. In terms of money which is going in, I think a lot of money went into the early years when I saw was in IT, when information technology was a vertical. Today, IT in India is a horizontal. Everything is tech-enabled. I mean, the country is digitizing at a dramatic stage, a very, very dramatic pace. Everything that you can think of, be it payments, documentation, be it your own ID, your transactions, including your flights, everything has moved digital. I think none of us need to carry a credit card or a wallet, for instance. Everything is on the phone. That's all we need. Our whole offices are on this right now. So the country is moving very dramatically on digitization. And that is one of this current government's focus, which has opened up a plethora of opportunities which we didn't ever think of. And that has also been enabled by what I would call the unique identification platform, which is the UID, which Nandan, one of the other co-founders of Infosys, has actually led and developed under the government of India. But what that has led to is every single sector today, every single sector is angel investable. That's what's happened. Be it agriculture, be it manufacturing, be it health tech, cybersecurity, textiles, hospitality. Every single sector has opened up with an average investment that we look at is about $500,000. It starts off at that. So we have startups which are raising from 30,000 US, and our average investment, which I believe is the global average, which is about $500,000. $500,000 is what we are doing. And every single, our own group has done investments in about 18 sectors across 7 countries. So I think this is of very keen interest because with very little money, the companies which are being able to scale up. So I'll give you one example to tell you what that means. We had a software product company which we invested at $1 million valuation. And because of the angel investor group, let me make that very clear, the company was not only mentored, we had to bring in a CEO, we had to elbow the co-founder team together, we had to teach them how to do online customer acquisition. About 8 years ago, online customer acquisition was not common. And because we had investors sitting overseas in the US, we brought in NASA as a client. And that sort of changed the company completely. Today, in 9 years, the company has raised Series E. It is tracking at $900 million. And it's got global partnerships across the board with the Big Fours. So the power is therefore recognized. You have healthcare, low-cost medical device. We invested $500,000. It's tracking at 40 times that valuation. $500,000 for about 4 million. 3 million, I'm sorry, 3 million. Today it's 40 times. Accel has come in, which is one of the global best venture capital firms in the healthcare. It's got a partnership with NHS. It's got a partnership now it's talking to with Canada. And we thought we were investing in a low-cost device for India, which has not happened as yet. So I think that is one other thing. On the angel investor group, I think the one tweak that we have seen in India is quite unique, actually. We have been able to attract and bring in angel investors from other countries to invest on the same platform. So if I just take the example of IEN, we have 500 investors investing from 12 countries. And that has actually helped companies to take it to the next level. We have also invested in 7 countries, including India. But we've kept one filter in mind, which is how can we help them? How can we help them either access talent or markets or in some ways help them? On the government front, I think we are seeing a very different perspective. We do have a very, very difficult framework there. Angel investment is a very simple way and tool of investing. Unfortunately, it is, we are on the cusp of either getting regulated or we have to fight our way through. So there is huge policy making and lobbying that we are doing. Mr. Kant has been one of our supporters. I just want to flip to Sri Lanka for a minute. The last thing I want to say is I think what we have done is sort of change the angel investor group to a platform investing. We've moved away from local physical meeting groups, city-based groups, to becoming more global groups. We've institutionalized, set in governance structures, processes, frameworks, and I think that is getting emulated in the country there with standard term sheets, everything is getting standardized, so the next round VCs are finding it extremely easy to come and work with us. And I would suggest that that is something especially for more nascent angel ecosystems to adopt, because idea is that when you invest, you do want to exit, or you want your company to be able to raise the next round. So making it easy, making it, educating the next round investor is also very important. And we've tried to do this by standardizing, by creating very empathetic documents, both for the entrepreneur and the next round investor, but without giving away your own preference as an angel investor. So these are some of the things which has helped us actually create an angel ecosystem which is quite phenomenal. and increasing. In Sri Lanka was very interesting. Sri Lankan, when they asked for help, and I must say that it was a country that reached out to say, how can we put this together? They did not even have a venture capital industry there at all. They didn't have a single VCF. And therefore, the Ministry of Finance there had no understanding what this is, to do anything about it, which was ideal to my mind, because the further away the regulators stay, the better it is, to my mind. It gives you more freedom and flexibility to do. So we started by, I literally had to do about 5 to 6 trips to Sri Lanka, put their angels together, people who were interested, shared with them what this is about, actually shared with them everything that we had in our processes, in our governance structures, in how we calculate, how we do a lot of things. We also shared with them the kind of technology platform that we had created that, look, as you grow, you may want to go technology-enabled. And finally, they said it won't work unless we have the next round investor, right? So I went and spoke to the Ministry of Finance and explained to them what we were trying to do. How would money flow into Sri Lanka? How could they regulate that it's at least kosher money and yet be very hands-off? Today, I have to say, they have a very, very successful business plan competition that they do annually, which is called Venture Engine, which is, I think, the 4th year, if I'm not mistaken. They have invested in about 30 to 40 companies, and Sri Lanka is a small country, do remember that. One of the companies, which was invested about 4 years ago, is now going IPO. So it's a very, very vibrant ecosystem. They have a venture capital fund which has raised money from across the world, Blue Ocean Ventures, which is now growing, doing the next fund. So I think what happened by the angel ecosystem getting bred is that whole value chain opened up. You know, more people were going entrepreneurial because there was money. Angels started coming in. They started putting in time. Incubators started mushrooming, and we had VC funds. So I think, honestly, a little bit of hand-holding, a little bit of nudging, a little bit of helping educate the ecosystem in other countries like governments, VCs, angels, HNIs. It does help. It takes a little effort, but it's absolutely doable. And what I did learn, what my takeaway was there, that I thought what worked in India would work in Sri Lanka. We are very close neighbors, so we thought our cultures were similar. It didn't. And I think the tweaks that we had to think of is something which sort of gave me a learning that it is not a copy-paste, and we have to respect different cultures and environments and see how we can reach that objective with our learnings, but with the tweaks that we can bring. So on that note, I'll stop.
Well, Ben, it's great. Thank you so much, Padmaja. And I think what I actually might like to do, while it's fresh on your mind, is there anybody who's got an immediate question of Padmaja about what she was talking about in India?
What I am struck with is, being an American, living in Europe, but understanding that having a continent that speaks one language, even though you speak many other languages, but that you do have one language, that you do have one market that you can also scale with, is something that is very, very similar to the United States, and so I'm struck by that, and I mean, you've just done a phenomenal job. I remember when I first came and helped at Mumbai Angels, with them, and I think the facility to speak the language of software, which has been something always for India, and then the one language, the one market. I think this is very exciting for angel investors.
No, absolutely, and your one market point is very, very valid. We are 29 states, and we have our own, we used to have our own state taxes. Last year in July, the Modi government actually took a very huge step. They put the general sales tax, which is one uniform tax across all states. So it's actually made it much easier. And yes, it's made it much easier for startups, SMEs to scale and just move life. I completely agree with you, apart from the fact that there's such a huge domestic market. It makes it so easy.
Okay, well, we'll obviously have plenty of opportunity for you to follow up one-on-one with Padmaja. But if, what I'd like to do is move on. Ali, I want to make sure we're going to have a presentation or some updates from Baybars a little bit about what's happening in the angel investing world here. But I just wanted to also, as my co-chair of the Congress, ask you, would you be open to giving a couple of comments from your perspective on the investor climate in Turkey too? Whichever you prefer. Whichever you prefer. Okay. Okay. All right, great. So you'll be, I just wanted to make sure in case you had to run out and you weren't going to be able to, so you can correct everything that Baybars tells us.
So,
yeah, that's great. Well, on that note, Baybars, thanks for being here. Of course, thank you to both you and Ali and all, once again, for the fact that it's great that we're able to have our GBAN meeting in Turkey. Baybars was one of the first people that said this would be a great idea to do. And so I think you were the first member to sign up. So we were very excited to have your energy, and I know your energy is well renowned for investing in helping get the early stage investors mobilized. So thanks for being here, and so maybe we can invite you to make a few comments as to what's happening here in Turkey. Thanks.
Thank you, Jonathan. I think I love the way she started her presentation. She started by referring to the historical issues. So I think first we have to understand very clearly where Jonathan and Ali Sabancı are hosting this event. This event is organized in Istanbul, as you know. But I think it is very meaningful, Istanbul, to host this entrepreneurship congress of the world, because Istanbul is an interesting city. Istanbul also hosted around 35 Byzantium emperors. Also hosted around 50 Roman empires, and also around 60 Ottoman sultans. So now, sultans, emperors, or kings of the 21st century is entrepreneurs. So I'm not surprised that Istanbul to host now the real sultans, kings, emperors of this century. So, thank you. And on the other hand, Turkey. Turkey is also an interesting country for entrepreneurs. The first written agreement, commercial written agreement, was made in Kayseri, in the world, where he comes from, his grandfather comes from. And yes, I know his grandfather. The second interesting feature of Turkey is where money was invented in the world. I think that's also 2000 BC. In which city? In the western part of Turkey, Jonathan. Jonathan, are you listening to me, or are you chatting with him with your eyes?
No, we're checking if it's true. I thought it was
Okay, if so, I have just said the name of the city. What was it, Jonathan? Huh? Yeah, Jonathan. Yeah. The name of the city is Manisa, where money was invented. Why the name of this city is Manisa? Because money was invented there, money, and you are putting Sa of Sabancı, and it is becoming Manisa. So, yes. So, so he's here to correct me, isn't it? Please correct what is wrong here, dear Alia. Right. So, dear friends, it is a great honor for me to address you as the president of the Business Angels Association in Turkey. As Jonathan said, in Milan, TBAA, the Turkish Trade Association for Business Angels, was the first GBAN member and the national lead, as announced with him in Milan. But the idea was born in DC, in the ACA summit, in the break time. With John. You remember you had flight from Moscow for the ACA summit. Global Business Angel Network is very important. Why? Because there are common values here we have to share with all governments. Unfortunately, many governments are still not aware about the importance of angel investment, of early stage equity markets. So this is the job GBAN is going to make globally, I think, isn't it, Jonathan? Creating a global awareness about the importance of angel investments. What did we do in Turkey? The first step we had to make was to clarify the general policy of supporting entrepreneurship ecosystem in Ankara. So Ankara had to decide about this point. If policymakers are going to support, or public money is going to support entrepreneurs directly, or will support the supporters of entrepreneurs. Because these are two different things. And our experience showed that supporting entrepreneurs directly with public money, with public grant, is not working well. You are giving aspirin. When aspirin ends, headache still goes on. This is not the solution. But if public money becomes a smart money in cooperation with angel investors, for example, because angel investors' money is good money, because they put more than finance, their know-how, network, mentorship. This is something any government in the world cannot do. How can public officers put know-how about business, put mentorship about it? They can't. They have to cooperate with the people who have this know-how, network, and mentorship. And let's check the sources of finances available for startups, entrepreneurs, scale-ups, and SMEs. Crowdfunding, bootstrappers, co-investment funds, banks, VCs, mini VCs, stock exchange. Which one puts know-how? None of them. Only angel investors. So they are angels. So I am very, very happy to let you know that angel investment became really has a very good structure in Turkey. After UK, the second country in Europe which passed the angel investment law with the highest amount of tax incentive, 75%, highest of the world. So you are able to deduct your investments 75% from your personal income tax the next year. And secondly, the government made a very interesting thing. Every March, we declare our own incomes online, our interest, the rent fees, etc., etc. We write our identity number, everything comes there. Now there is a question there. It asks, are you an angel investor? If you say yes, and if you inform the Treasury Department about your investments, then 75% of this investment is automatically deducted online from your investment in 1 second. Which country made it in the world? I think this is a good role model. Isn't it? There's more. Now, please.
I'm sorry. You have to be an accredited angel investor, right?
Yes.
It's not that difficult to be accredited. And once you do that, there's another rule that says you cannot take majority of an investment, which actually says the arrogance of money, the period where money was arrogant, is over. So you're investing in the people and the project, not because you know how to run it, but because you're investing in that woman or man. So this is, I think, the only limitation is, as all entrepreneurs do, this is not enough. And there's a limit of 1 million TL per year, which is, I think, $250,000 now.
Yes.
So if, like, I made an investment, I'm in the process of making an investment over 1 million TL, I cannot use it.
Yes. But now there is...
But this is...
Say that you cannot use it, but you can use the...
No.
No.
See, there's a definition of
okay.
what a big and what an angel investment is.
Okay.
So the threshold is 1 million. So
right.
if you did 1,005,000 TL,
right.
you can't use it. If you had 995,000, but this will all evolve.
Yes.
You know?
I think that this,
yes.
I love this, the fact that they cannot be the majority investor, because
yes.
I do not know if we have any friends here from the Middle East, but this has, I've been doing a lot of work also, in the Middle East, and this is a problem. They always want to own.
Yes.
And they do not understand. So I think this is a very important specification. Yeah.
One more thing.
Yeah.
One more thing. Last week, Deputy Prime Minister announced a very important thing. Fund of funds issue. This fund of funds now has been legalized in Turkey, which means government is going to match the same amount of investments if the investment is made through TTO, Technopark, or R&D departments. The three words, that's R&D, TTO, and Technoparks. And if Technoparks, of course, cooperate with angel investors in their investments, then the government will match the same amount of money put for these investments. That's an important development, and the size of the fund is 2 billion Turkish lira. On 2nd of May, I'm now ending my words because there's an important development again about entrepreneurship, angel investment, and entrepreneurship. The General Grand Assembly of Turkey, Parliament, is now about to set up the Women Entrepreneurship Committee within the Assembly. And this committee is going to take women entrepreneurship independently as an issue. And as a humble father of this idea, because I'm not a woman, I couldn't achieve to become an active board member of this issue. But as a man, of course, it is our great responsibility to support such kind of initiatives. Then the second development will be immediately the launch of the Women Angel Investor Network. It is on the way, and it is really going to become a milestone for the support of women entrepreneurs. Women are going to invest in women startups. That is what we needed in Turkey. And I will be very, very pleased to promote this initiative. Again, another Sabancı. Another Sabancı. I won't give the name before it is announced, but the first... this morning means many times passed until now, Ali. So, Candace, you dedicated yourself also for supporting women entrepreneurs with Rise Tide, and it will be a great issue. You also to invite this new initiative to your, yes, please.
So if I may, and then we will move on, but I think, first of all, Ali maybe want to say just a few more things. I think I was also active here in Turkey with the Sabancı University to first get the situation for intellectual property rights, since we are all speaking here about how to create ecosystems that are supporting entrepreneurs. One of the big problems was actually liberating the intellectual property rights so that angel investors could also invest in companies where there was the intellectual property rights and it was resident there. The second thing indeed is that Turkey has also been very leading in the rising tide from the 24 countries. I think we probably have one of the largest contingents of women investors from Turkey in Rising Tide. And it has been my great pleasure now to meet with your cousin, I guess, or Amina, yes, yesterday. Your sister, okay, wonderful, fabulous. So would you please speak just a little bit about your own angel investing, and then what your sister or your is doing, or maybe we have some representatives from that, and then we will go on just in 2 minutes to Africa.
So you were there, right, yesterday? Okay, so you'll explain maybe. Okay, the day before yesterday. So my person. So you will explain a little bit in a few moments, or you want to do it now? Okay. So I actually stumbled into angel investing about 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago. I was crossing the first bridge. There was, I think, only one bridge, and a friend of mine said, there's a thing called an ISP. I don't know if anybody has an ISP anymore.
You and I probably are the only ones who know about internet and service providers.
Probably Baybars.
Yeah.
He also remembers the telex, you know?
Yeah.
Telex. No, very important. I remember telex in July of 1987.
There you go.
I was a high school boy. I was 17 years old, and I started working in a travel agent. And when I came to travel agent, there was a telex. 3 months later, fax came, 3 months, and I remember my boss was asking me to call the airline and to read what I sent by fax, because he was not believing that the other part would receive the same document. We were sending fax, read. Then, 1991...
No, Baybars, I'm sorry.
Yes,
Jonathan gave me the timekeeper role. I'm sorry, but you know, we still...
So, I'm not going to go... I am very sorry. This is the first time I've been in a meeting with Baybars. I don't know what I'm getting myself into.
We do try to stick to the time.
So, since 97, I've had the opportunity to invest in 13 companies, of which I have exited 4. I think it's more important. We were talking yesterday. It's more important.
We are in the business of exiting.
Yeah, I'm not there to give my children shares of companies that I don't understand what they're doing. So, and when I look at the portfolio of assets, it's a little bit different than India, what you've explained. Perhaps not because it's not as big a country as India, Turkey is. I don't see much specialization. You know, in my portfolio, I have new economy, medicine. I even have a carbonated drink manufacturer, which is relatively old economy. And my approach, and I think many of the people who are in my position, who have other things that they're doing, in their, yeah, not even part-time angels, you know, almost like arrogant, you know, it's almost like want-to-be part-time angels who happen to be pitched because of their perceived reputation, you know, and they say yes to several of these things, and I'm one of those, I think, you know. So from my perspective, I focus entirely on who else is investing in it with me. This is very important to me. You know, I have an investment in San Diego. I have 1/4%. 1/4%, I found out after dilution, 1/4%. I could tell you maybe 2 sentences about what this company does. If you ask me any more, I'll have to call a friend of mine. But these friends of mine who have put their money in, I think this is, and they have done the due diligence. And my friendship with them, both social and professional, I have done the due diligence on them before, right? So, you know.
But, yeah,
Is
trust
that what
and pure investing. Yes, yes.
So it's not angel investing?
Okay.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yes, so there's not a single company that I've invested in that I've sat there and looked at the business plan on my own, you know. But what we have done is we don't have an accredited angel network. We have a group of 8 people, 8 people actually. If I don't get to go to a meeting, I know if the majority says they're going in, I have 1/8 of what is being offered. I know this from the outset, and there's no hanky-panky because we know each other. So this benefits me a lot, and I have to tell you that 1997 investment, I think we're the only ones who made money in the ISP sector, flipping it to a bigger company. To this day, I do not know how we connected to the internet. So we're lucky, like Baybar said, because in the last 5-6 years, we've had a government in Ankara. I mean, we've had the same government for 15 or so years, but last 5-6 years, we've had management of the economy, people who understand how important it is to establish the funds of funds. You know, we've had ministers who actually, when we were pitching them the funds of funds, they were correcting us. They're saying, no, this is what our experience is, having been in this country, in Sweden and Silicon Valley, you know. So we have to make sure that we keep on feeding the people in Ankara accurately, transparently, you know, and selflessly, because they're also doing it selflessly, you know, and keep this momentum going. But at the end of the day, in all these good stories, one thing that we don't do well is we don't explain what we're doing well. We don't market what we're doing well. Not everybody is like Baybars, who's doing a wonderful job. Seriously, as I understand, you make everybody happy. We only have about 400 accredited angel investors in my country. Even with all these tax benefits, this is really unheard of, these tax benefits, right? So we're doing something wrong, which is we're not explaining to the public and to the rich, like the $500 million net worth guy you went to, you know, that this is an alternative, not to give back. I'm not looking to give back, really. I'm looking to make money. And I've made more money in multiple terms doing this than doing my day job, in multiple terms. And being more energized, right? Because most of the time you're with younger people who challenge the way you're thinking. And that carries back into your other job, on your day job, you know? And I have to tell you, and some of the people who invested with me know, I take pride in understanding about 1/3 of what they're doing, the companies. If I understand more than that, it's too late, Candace.
Yes.
You know, by the time I understand, it's already invested.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. And
I think one of the things I wanted to clarify when I was speaking, and I'm glad you brought up that point. When I said this specialization happening, the specialization is happening from not portfolio investment. It is to say that this is the area I understand and I would like to lead or diligence these kind of companies and engage with them actively. However, on the investment side, where I'm building my portfolio, that is largely built on a sector agnostic or, you know, way, because this is a reward structure, and it's a high-risk asset class. So you have to risk mitigate, and one of the risk mitigation strategies is clearly investing across sectors, which is where we have been able to actually go down to the point of quantifying it, to say that if somebody had invested in all the deals that we put to our angels on the table and had invested in all of them, what would they have got? And across 104 deals, we gave an IRR of 32%.
That's fantastic. So
net of taxes, and we also had a failure rate of only 15%. So that is the risk reward that one needs to do. That's what I meant when I said specialization in sector. And the second is, I think we moved the ecosystem to the point of quantifying what you've invested and gone. And absolutely agree with you. You have to exit. You need a divorce with a heavy alimony.
We can just have really 1 minute about the Women Angel Network, because this has been, and Jeff, please come and sit down.
You want Baybar's 1 minute or Berak's 1 minute?
Berak's 1 minute. Thank you, Candice. Welcome to Istanbul. 20 women got together and collected 1 million euros. Yes, 1 million euros. And we established a company. And we are going to invest only women entrepreneurs, or entrepreneurs who has also women employees. So it's the first women fund in Turkey and maybe in the region. So, and also we are going to accept men to invest in this fund also. But, you know, 20 strong business women. So the head of the fund is Ali Bey's sister, and also the head of Turkish Women Business Association chairwoman, Nilüfer Bulut, and Emine Kamışlı. And if you need any information, I would be very happy to help you. So our next plan is to invest women entrepreneurs in the region as well.
And
How do you eliminate and value? This is also important.
We work with a third-party company. They also work with Turkish Exporters Assembly entrepreneurs' houses. So they find the entrepreneurs, they eliminate, and they bring 6 of them to us. So as a steering committee, we are going to eliminate 3 of them. So to the committee, executive committee, we are going to present 3 of them. So they will decide, you know, to invest or not.
And this is so great. And I would also just like to say that I was very honored to have been invited to the lunch where this was discussed, and it's great. So we do have to.
Claire, I'm sorry, I was tasked to be the timekeeper, and it's a difficult job. But thank you so much for your presentation. I think I can mention that maybe you've heard of it, but with Business Angels Europe, we just did a one-of-a-kind survey of women business angels. We had 700 women. Half were existing angels, half were potential angels from 6 countries in Europe, talking about their interest in investing in companies, the challenges they face. So I'm very happy to share that report if it can contribute to the discussion.
I'd be very happy to bring Emine Hanım and Nilüfer Hanım to this group, European Business Angel Network, and Women Entrepreneurship topics.
We'll be delighted.
Yes,
we will
Candice,
be delighted.
please help us.
Yes, definitely.
We'll be delighted to have you. So can we turn now to Ben? Can you tell us what's going on in Africa in terms of angel investing? Thank you.
So we had India, Sri Lanka, we had Turkey. Now I have the fortunate pleasure to talk about an entire continent, 55 countries, which is a huge job because it's, everything's so diverse and different. It's almost an impossible task. But it does look like we have very strong representation here from the continent. I know we have Botswana, we have Niger. Are there other, we have Mauritius with us. Are there other African countries? Chad, Benin, Gambia. So this is remarkable, right? You can see that the continent is here in full force So thankfully, I don't have to give this presentation by myself because I've got colleagues who can help me really help you understand what is happening in the lovely continent of Africa. But my name's Ben White, and I actually was born in the deserts of New Mexico, so southwestern United States. I don't know if you've seen Breaking Bad, but that's where I grew up. And as you do when, as youth living in the desert, you leave in search of opportunity. So I had the wonderful opportunity, working in Eastern Europe, in the Middle East, and on the African continent. And this was about 10 years ago where I was meeting individuals, really bright entrepreneurs who were trying to build very meaningful companies. And I thought it was rather strange that they weren't getting so much attention. At that time, you had microfinance on one end of the spectrum and you had private equity on the other end of the spectrum. But if you were trying to build a high-growth venture, who was there to care, to listen, to support, to engage, to invest? So I think what you're seeing here also in such a strong representation of African delegates as part of this meeting is really a movement that has taken place across the continent in the last 10 years, where I think from our shared perspective, there is a realization that, of course, the African continent is a very populous continent. Very soon, maybe 2 billion people representing 20% of the global population, where 1 in 5 working people will be African, where the reality is that 46% of a population is under the age of 14. You have massive youth coming up, and they're looking to their governments, and they're asking their governments for education and access to opportunity. And if they don't have it, symptoms like Arab Spring or migration or other things are a consequence. And not saying that that's a good thing or a bad thing, but saying that African governments increasingly are looking at this population and they're wondering, is the glass half full or is it half empty? Is this a threat to our societies? Is this a threat to stability? Or is this actually our greatest asset? Are these youth the engine of our economies and our countries, and how do we then tap into that productive potential, unlock that potential to really move each of these economies forward in a very meaningful way? And I think the movement that I'm very fortunate to be a part of is about untapping and unlocking this youth potential that the continent has as its greatest asset. And so what you've seen in 2011, we were sitting in a room with 4 people, bringing together 4 innovation hubs as part of a network called AfriLabs. And now there are more than 300 of these innovation spaces being run across the continent. And the hard work has been done in terms of the physical infrastructure. You have spaces, they're clean, they're open at 8 in the morning, there's internet, there's coffee, there are networking sessions, there are places where people are connecting their ideas, connecting with business experts. I think that first piece was a very significant milestone for the ecosystem, where now we move into maybe a second phase where we say, okay, well, having physical infrastructure is only part of the challenge. Now we have to fill it with content. So I think a lot of these spaces are now really trying to understand, okay, now that we have tapped into this entrepreneurial energy that you can find everywhere, how are we actually going to materialize it? What you've seen is that there has been a rapid growth of venturing across Africa, across each of the countries. Certainly within major urban innovation cities like Lagos, Johannesburg, Nairobi, Accra. And so you can look at maybe 10 to 15 sort of tier 1 cities where most, I would say 80% is located. And then you have the second and the third tier cities that are starting to add to what is definitely a growing pipeline of talented entrepreneurs building very interesting, very meaningful companies. And so then it's a very natural next step that you say, okay, there is pipeline, but where is the capital? And it is extremely frustrating for entrepreneurs in these markets to have to look to California or have to look to Europe or the Middle East to try and find an investor. They're saying, hey, I'm building a company here in Nairobi. Where are my Nairobi partners? Where are my investors in this ecosystem? And that's where I think the angel efforts have really been centered and anchored from the beginning. I was with Candice. We were in Brussels at the 4th EU Africa Business Forum. We were hosting a roundtable on venture capital development from the African perspective, and we had invited Candice, and Candice said, well, I happen to be working with this organization called GBAN, which of course was totally new to me, but also where we very quickly understood that you shouldn't be trying to build these ecosystems in isolation, but that you actually are benefiting when you are able to link up with your colleagues in Turkey to learn what they've been able to establish here in Turkey, to use it as a blueprint, to use it as a strong example that you can then take to different governments to say, hey, these are the possibilities, these are the experience of our colleagues on the other side of the continent or in another continent, look what they've been able to achieve, how can we not leverage this, how can we not build off of this? And I think we're seeing this from the continent being able to engage and partner with organizations like GBAN, but also within the continent. So there's huge appetite to be able to engage with one another. So the colleagues in Botswana are very easily able to get help and support from their friends in Nairobi and vice versa. So there is very much this shared effort across the different countries to develop these best practices, to develop these learnings, and to be working together in building up these ecosystems. So it was 4 years ago that we started GBAN, the African Business Angels Network, and now there are 60 emerging angel investing groups across the continent. Certainly Cairo Angels and Lagos Angels are the most active. Lagos, for example, they have now upwards of 9 syndicates that are investing in companies through the network, where you're seeing a more significant number of deals as a result of the growing number of angels and syndicates that are tapping into a shared infrastructure. And certainly, as the volumes of deals are increasing, also the knowledge and the intellect and the lessons are improving, where our chair, Tommy Davies, who, if you've not met him before, is a very impressive, wonderful champion for our movement. And we send Tommy all over the continent. He's sending himself all over the continent, engaging with as many people as possible, trying to share his understandings and lessons and learnings he's gained from working with so many different groups. So also we'll be sending Tommy to see you in Botswana, which will, I think, yeah. And in these, I think we're still in a stage where we are also, I think, similar to our colleagues, trying to get high net worth individuals out of the woodwork. We're trying to find mechanisms that make it easy for people to learn more about angel investing and to try it. We're also doing a lot in terms of, like, for example, just mentorship. Just expanding the pools of mentorship in these markets is so critical. So we have, you know, these business professionals in corporates, but they're not yet engaging these younger, more innovative, often tech-driven companies. So also getting these individuals to first become active as mentors, to share their network, to share their experience, to help with business development. And we've seen that through that mentorship engagement, that people also then start to become also more involved as investors in the same businesses. Because at some point, they've become so involved that they also have to be part of the success. They also want to be part of the outcome. So we're looking at a lot of mechanisms like this to try and get more and more individuals active and engaging with these companies, because they're looking for more support than they're getting at the moment. But also, I think we see this as absolutely critical for bringing capital into the continent. So it is completely unrealistic to expect that Ben White, sitting in Amsterdam, will be able to invest in a venture in Harare, Zimbabwe, if I don't have strong local partners there. So the local networks are absolutely essential in not only identifying the talent at a very early stage, but also engaging these companies in developing more sophisticated governance structures, in understanding what professional management looks like, in getting all of the documentation in order, in setting up all the proper accounts, things like this. But then through that angel engagement with these companies, you're actually making these ventures investable for people outside of the continent. And Africa has so many diaspora, so many individuals living outside of the continent who are looking for meaningful ways to be part of the continent's growth and development. And so it's through these angel networks that we're also able to tap the resources that are sitting in North America, in Middle East, increasingly in Asia, and to bring that in. So it's definitely, I think, the most exciting. Every year I wonder, like, can it get more exciting? Can it get more, you know, is it happening now? But yeah, every year actually gets more exciting than the last year. And I think my colleagues sense that as well, because there is something really special happening. And the momentum is, you can feel it. And you see it in the companies. So the companies are, not only is the volume of businesses growing, but they're becoming much smarter and much more sophisticated in what they're bringing to the market. And last year, we did, for example, a program where we brought 20 of the most interesting businesses that had received angel investment together. And we presented these businesses to the VC community. And we've seen most of those businesses go on to raise their Series A's. And these will be our success stories that will also further drive liquidity and interest in these markets. But also my colleagues here, coming from each country, which is very specific and very unique, definitely have something to add in terms of developing this framework and understanding of what is happening on the African continent. But thank you.
Thank you very much, Ben.
If I may, Jeff would just like to say one word because he's joined us about, I think, Africa.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a perspective because I've been spending time on the ground in all your countries pretty much with the entrepreneurs, and we are making great progress, but I will say this, from their perspective, they still can't find you, and you can't find them. By the way, a lot of investors that I talk to say, where's the hot deal? Where's the hot startup? They don't know where to look because it's not obvious, it's not easy, and the startups, the entrepreneurs that find you guys are the ones that need you least because they're the people that already have connections and know investors. There's a whole level of startups and entrepreneurs and amazing human beings that don't know how to find you and have no relationships and no connections, which, by the way, I'll say this as a board member of GEN, that's why this whole organization was created, and that's why I came to your EBAN event to support what you guys are doing, because it's so important. But I just want to say one quick thing. You can start really simple. I'll give you one example because it was many years ago, but I went to Ghana visiting entrepreneurs, and this was entrepreneur-driven with a group of them. I was there for the launch of Hub Accra, and it was literally an empty room with 2 tables. I remember this, I took pictures. We had 12 chairs, and no 2 chairs were alike. And the reason was 12 people that lived in the area each brought a chair. We set up some tables, painted the outside of the building, and told everybody in town to tell everybody. The point is that physical space and awareness draws them somewhere where you can find them. And they can find you because you can visit one place and meet lots of entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs that showed up when we launched Hub Accra with some tables and chairs, but a lot of awareness, came from everywhere, and they had brilliant ideas, and we didn't know any of them existed because they're off working where they live with no connectivity. And I'll tell you one of my favorite stories of that. I met 2 young Ghanaians that were launching a company that I talked into going with me when we did GEC Rio, if any of you remember that, when we were in Brazil. Talked them into going, brought them there. We entered them against 50 other countries in our startup competition we had that they won, right? This is just the awareness piece. I was doing an interview on CNN International, and I said, you know what, don't talk to me, talk to the entrepreneurs. So I told CNN, I'll do the interview, but only if you give half of my time to them. They showed up on CNN International. It was seen all over the world. They were funded. Moved them to Silicon Valley just long enough to build the technology. They moved back to Accra, and they launched their company in 7 African countries. None of that would have happened if we couldn't find them and if investors, if they couldn't find us. So it's simpler than people are making it. Literally, just the awareness and creating some physical spaces for them to show up so that you can go to one location and say, everybody show me what you got. Because they're looking for you and you're looking for them. And every day when I'm out there, I hear them say, I have no idea where to look for investors or how to find them. other than the obvious online things, which they feel like if they cold call some of you in a big organization, they're an unknown little person. They don't even think. Bad news is they don't even try sometimes because they don't think you'll return the call. You're big, important people to them, and they don't think you'll talk to them. Even though they're wrong, they don't reach out to you. So we just have to make it simpler for you to find them and simpler for them to find you. And what Ben said, a physical space is a great start. It's only half the answer, but it's a really important half. Give them a place to show up, and you'll be amazed at who shows up when they hear about it. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Jeff. Yeah.
No, I wanted to make one comment. I think what is extremely, positive about what has been said by Padmajan, by you, Ben, is that there is, the pipeline of deal flow is there. Yeah. And I think that's the most important message, because we're involved in setting up angel ecosystems in 44 countries in the age 2020 at the moment. What we've realized is that we won't be able to build angel ecosystems where there's no deal flow. Padmajan mentioned it. You need the deal flow in order to be able to build the ecosystem. So I think it's a great positive message that the pipeline is there, and then we can build the connections to the angel investors, and how does GBAN help?
So
I think
that's the thing. The deal flow really is there, and we have a chicken and egg.
Yeah.
Investors tell me, I don't want to go to that country because there's no deals. The deals are everywhere, but you haven't found a way to find them. They're looking for you, and you're looking for them. I'm seeing amazing products. And you know what? Even American investors are calling me and say, what country? Where do we go? No one knows how to find them. The deal flow's there. We just got to keep focusing on bringing it to the surface so the people that need to find each other find each other.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I think this is a perfect segue to Nicolas, because I will never forget when when I went to Lebanon, and at your invitation, and there were entrepreneurs who had come from Tripoli the night before with the bombs, had somehow gotten to us with their deal flow so that we could invest in them. Nicolas, I will never, ever forget that first time I came to Beirut and experienced that. So, so talk about segues. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we're waiting for you. No bombs this time. No bombs.
It was happy to go.
Hi, everyone. I know I stand between you and the coffee break, so you have to bear with me.
This is too much fun, and we should be inclusive, and everybody needs to speak.
I'll try to make it as fun as buy bars. Just a small word before I start about representation. I mean, I heard Jeff talking about Accra. I'm Ghanaian by birth, so I don't know if it counts with your representation. So I was born and grew there, so you get +1. But actually, I'm here because I come from Lebanon, and it's this tiny country. If you compare to Africa, India, Istanbul, both in square meters, kilometers, and in population. And I'm here with two of my colleagues, Corinne and René, in charge of investment and the angel groups. And I'm very happy to be here with two of I would call them always my fairy godmothers. Candace, obviously, because of her engagement with us historically, and Claire, who visited our offices as well, out of nowhere, actually, coming to a wedding in Beirut, and she calls me up and says, they told me the person to meet while I'm here, so we met, and she talked to me about GBAN and business angeling, etc. And I said, yeah, I will consider it, one of these days. And she left, and we started talking about it, and we said, that's cool. Let's explore angel investing, and because of that, actually, because first of all, I Am Capital, which I'm part of, started recently in 2015. So everything I'm going to tell you is very, very recent, very nascent. So we're a fund that invests in early stage startups, and actually we're a matching capital fund. So our job or our mandate is to encourage early stage investments by matching capital and de-risking a round and participating in a round in any sector, by the way, so it's not just tech. And we have another component for that, which is insurance capital. So we give equity guarantees for the investor. So we guarantee 50% of the investments of an investor, so that we incentivize the investor to come in. And we have a third component as well, which is technical assistance, where we can We have a mentorship program developed with MIT. We have a coaching program with Stanford, with our portfolio companies. And we have the abilities to do workshops and capacity building, et cetera, to help the entrepreneurs, not just give the money. So when we started doing this matching capital and looked at the cap tables of the deals that are coming, I mean, we had really individuals in these, as we all know that, I mean, family and friends and fools are the basics in funding any startups. And this was really a fact when we look at the deals that are coming to us, that were really funded by these individuals. And we said, okay, and Lebanese individuals, and we said, fine. And so there are individuals that are actually interested in investing in companies. Now, and we said, fine, and we need a matching partner anyway, so we have to look for angels somehow, maybe. And so we'll be matching with VCs in Lebanon, obviously, historically. But then VCs look at tech, and there are so much opportunities outside tech, and we don't have matching partners over there to be able to invest. And so we said, fine, let's look at angels, maybe they could help us. And so we went to GBAN, obviously, and we went around. We came to Brussels. We went everywhere, Paris. I mean, we talked to Kairetsu guys, the golden seeds in the US. I mean, we really did some homework to understand how this works. Because, by the way, I mean, in Lebanon, you know that there are high net worth individuals. I mean, there are angels, existing angels. They do it naturally. I mean, but there's not that many. I mean, obviously. And you have to know someone that knows someone to get to them. They can do that much deal. I mean, 1 or 2 deals. They cannot like support and scale, this thing. And it's not structured, it's like ad hoc and it's like sparse. So it's not like structured like all the angel networks. So we looked at other groups, and I mean, all of them are established networks. So it's like, okay, guys, we have to go back to and to see how to get there, because we're not there yet. And so we had the epiphany in Charleroi, somewhere in Brussels. And going back, we really designed this thing. So we said, you know what, let's not target the high net worth individuals. We know them, we know where they are, their money, fine, that's good. When we need them, we'll go to talk to them. We won't bother. We want to, create a business angeling culture among the other, not so high net worth individuals, We want it accessible to anyone. This will be able to scale, because these guys have time, more than the high net worth individuals to be able to support, because we want support. So we want scalability. And we thought about, crowdfunding, crowdsourcing angels more than, hand-picking high net worth individuals. And education is very important, obviously. Deal flow was there, actually. Deal flow was there because we were running a fund for a year, and we saw that, I mean, the amount of investment, I mean, startups that were not ready to be VC investable from our side, because we have an investment committee, and criteria, is a lot. I mean, what do we do with these guys? I mean, they disappear in the nature because there is a gap, there's an equity gap for them before they reach our investment criteria, because we have to match with other VCs, etc. And what about sectors that are not in tech? So deal flow is there. VCs are there because recently there's been a regulation from the central bank which unleashed $500 million of VC money in the ecosystem. So lots of VCs are there. So we know that there is a buzz now around entrepreneurship. So the ecosystem is really buzzing. So it creates deal flow. Again, it creates potential for exits, and it creates interest. I mean, everyone now is interested into this ecosystem, and they show up at networking parties and whatever, etc. And they want to be part of it, but they don't know how, and they're not the high net worth individuals. They're interested in this, whatever it is. They have small money, and they would like to maybe be part of it. So we created a program which is both educational and investment track. And we called it the MBA, the Master Class for Business Angels. So when I say I have an MBA for you guys, they say, "Oh wow, what is it?" And so I tell you, I handhold you from September till July. So it's like an academic year actually. And so there are workshops and trainings, etc. And every 6 weeks, we give you pitches. 3 to 4 startups you listen to. And there's a coach that moderates the session and the do's and don'ts, red lights, green lights, what to ask questions, etc. So we take you through the We guide you through this investment process, and then if you like, you vote, and you form a due diligence team that go and really dig more into the startup, you know, and come up with an investment report, submit it to re-voting to the other angels, et cetera, over like a period of 9 months. We do about maybe 7 or 8 investment sessions every 6 weeks. So this is the program, and we tell them, okay, you know, the entry ticket is like $15,000. You know, so it's accessible to any executive, and we pool a group of up to 25, multiply by this 15, we get around $400,000. So we get a pool of $400K of money that these guys, the 25 individuals in this MBA, would be able to use to invest and vote on the investment. So it gives them more firepower than if they were alone on 50K. Obviously, they can carry a portfolio of 4 or 5 companies, so they can de-risk their investments. Their decisions are, you know, thought because there is a coach, we handhold them, etc. I mean, the team at IM, because we manage as well this group, this MBA, so we handhold them and be with them on the negotiation tables, in the due diligence, etc. So they make decisions that are well thought of, obviously. And the cherry on the cake is I tell them, my fund, IM Capital, we guarantee 50% of your investment because we have the investment insurers. And I say, oh, wow, here's the check. So when we sell this, it's an easy sell, I would say. So the product was very interesting, appealing, and everyone we talked to, we got the check. So we like oversubscribed, but we had to stop at 20. We needed to stop at 20, then we stopped at 25, then we made an exception 26, the first batch, because we said, okay, fine, yeah, so anyways. I was very detailed. So we did the first batch, graduated in July, 4 investments in 4 startups, so now they're in the phase of helping them and sitting on their boards and helping them. And by the way, so they invested like a little bit, like 400K, so get this, they were matched automatically by other angels and funds, equally 350K, I would say, and the total rounds were like 2 million, over 2 million. So the angels, when they come in, really they brought in money to this startup. So this is really leverage effect, unseen. So obviously we thought it was good, so we said we'll do another batch. Last September we started, so we started the other program. By the way, we called it Seeders, for obvious reasons. Seeders of Lebanon, but Seeders as a seed, S-E-E-D, you know. So again, so now we created a website, you know, so people apply to, you know, for angel investing, which was not there. I mean, if you want to have angel investment, you don't know where to go. So now you know there's a website, you know, there's an office you can call, etc. And people apply, etc. So there's a complete process. So we started Seeders 2018, second batch, with 33 angels. And by the way, yeah, I forgot to mention about women. Yeah, obviously, so we... yeah. Save the best for last. So actually, so we are managing now today 3 groups. So the group from last year, because we're following on their investments. So we have to get them meeting twice per year. And we launched 2 groups this year. So first group is the Seeders 2, 2017-18, and the second one is the Lebanese Women Angel Fund. So along the first batch, part of the first batch was someone like Ali's sisters, called Asma Zain. She's the president of the Lebanese League for Women in Business. And she said, this is great what you're doing. I want to do the same for a women class. I said, seriously? I mean, angels, there's no sex for angels, you know, so angels are, you talk about sex of angels, you know, so women angels, no. so no, I said, yeah, no, I'm serious, I want a class for women only, investing in women only entrepreneurs. So, okay, I start sweating because, you know, deal flow, you suddenly, you know, your deal flow starts to decrease, etc. But I said, no, you know what, we'll do it. We'll up to it, and we do it. So we gathered, I think 23 women, yeah, 23 women in this class. So now, so I'll tell you briefly, I will not tell you, because what goes on in the women class versus what goes on in the other class, it's like, you have to witness the difference. But when you get women together versus, you know, a mixed environment. So it's really a learning.
Go ahead and just say we're better.
yeah, you're better, obviously. My wife is part of the women, so I cannot, you know. She said, I want to be part of it. I said, are you serious? we have to talk shop now when we go back home because she's in the jewelry, you know, and I'm in the investment, so we don't usually talk shop, but now we have to talk shop because she's an angel and she's like, okay, whatever. So, my bad. So anyway, so now we're running 2 groups. 3 groups, but 2 are the local MBAs. And by the way, just for you, for this year, we were able to double the firepower of the angel investment groups because the World Bank said, what you're doing is good. We want to put money with you. And so whatever amount the angels put in the SPV was matched by the World Bank. There's a World Bank program for co-investments in Lebanon. So they doubled simply the pot. So now the women angels can vote on $500,000. Maybe it's not a lot, but I mean, over 1 year and a half, we were able to raise 1.5 million of, you know, money that was not there. Now suddenly it's there, you know. So and growing, by the way. So we think it's good. So now they're doing due diligence, etc., and they voted on some of the deals and what have you. Now, moving forward, as we have to add 1 group every year, you notice, because first 1, then 2, then we have to have 3. So next year, obviously, we will have the Cedars 3, Al-Waf 2, obviously, and get this. We are now, because Lebanese diaspora are everywhere, you know. And so they looked at this, and they said, what you're doing is cool. We want to be part of it as the diaspora, you know, because, I mean, well, we want to give back and invest in Lebanon, whatever. But okay, cool. And so now we're doing, starting with Montreal, of all places, you know, it's very near to Beirut, obviously. So Lebanese diaspora wanting to do a Cedars chapter in Montreal. So we'll be managing, René, 3 groups, I mean 5 groups. And if I can 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you know. Next year we'll be managing 6 groups and growing. So the idea is, okay, these angels would be trained and formed to the same methodology, you know, and carry portfolio. We're hoping that, I mean, the end game is that these alumni of these MBAs would create this association or network or whatever structured that they will start to do stuff on their own because now they know, you know, and they can like sit like Ali is doing and talk about their portfolio because this does not exist. I mean, in Lebanon, I mean, angels, there are angels. Obviously, when you go there, you talk to the Gharours, etc. I mean, these are typical high net worth individuals that maybe do some investments in tech or not, but they don't discuss it with, and yeah, but let's say that, but they don't talk about it. I mean, they don't get together, you know, as angels and discuss their portfolio and their strategy, etc. They don't. I mean, they don't. They're so individualistic, you know. And the thing is sharing because we went to Zurich and I was witnessing a talk among angel investors. I mean, I was shocked. I said, really? They do this? They talk among themselves on their portfolio? I mean, who does that? Who does that? You know, sharing, you know, this is what I did, and have I got a deal for you, etc. It's like, yeah, I mean, this is missing. We don't have this in Beirut. If we only get to this point with these angels, you know, discussing their portfolio strategies, you know, moving forward, I mean, I think we have done a good job in spreading the culture of business angels. So, very recent, very nascent, so I don't know what will go on in year 2 or 3. We might change, we might pivot in something else, but we're still starting up. But so far, so good. So far, so good, so I have to knock on wood.
So I know that some of us have to, not me, but some of you have to go to the plenary, I think, and some things. But we will take a little break now, just 5 minutes for coffee, maybe 10. And then I think what I would just like to say before the break, though, is that what you are hearing, and this is so important, and this is what we would like to hear from you after the break, is, you know, this exchange of experiences. We are hearing master classes. In Africa, they have done the master classes. We are hearing syndicates, whether it be pools, whether it be funds, we are hearing this. We are hearing diversity with women. We are hearing diaspora. So we are hearing a lot of common threads. We are hearing best practices where established business angel groups go and help other business angel groups, not because it's the right thing to do, quite frankly it is, but because there are interesting deal flow there. Entrepreneurs are going global. We must go global. That is why we have the Global Business Angels Network. And we are also hearing co-investment, being able to leverage what individual people have done, and then that this is being followed. And we're hearing scale, if you can get that all together, which I'm just blown away by India. So if we may now take this 10-minute break, Claire, is that okay? Or?
Yeah, I think we'll take the 10-minute break, and then let's make sure everybody comes back and we continue to share.
Yes.
And then we'll end up with, you know, the plan for GBAN.
Yes.
How we can add value.
Yes, we have 3 exciting things that we want to share with you, but we want to hear first from you. So 10-minute coffee break, go and share your war stories. Okay.